Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the AM8 Knives Morad, which has an incredible price tag on it for what it is. I'll link it right down below. It's available. It does help my channel when you use my links, but that is entirely up to you. Thanks so much to AM8 / MyGearon for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. Overall length is coming in at right there at 8 inches with a 3.5 inch blade, and just shy of 3 1/4 inches on the cutting edge. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. You can see here, this is definitely a full-size knife, closer to the size of the Rat 1. That's what I would say. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? There we go. How about up against the Demco 80-20.5? How about up against the Benchmade Bug Out? And last but not least, how about the Benchmade Reptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Alrighty. How's the action? AM8 knives are made in China, and MyGearon, which is the same company, does some premium knives. They do some budget knives. AM8 seems to almost exclusively do premium knives, but I'm honestly not sure. But it's another company that is putting out really, really high quality knives in China, and their fit and finish is extremely good. Now, I've handled some other premium knives from AM8, and they've been pretty good. Like, the materials were always incredible, and the milling was always insane, but the action and some other elements were just a little bit weird. This one is snappy. This one is pretty darn good to go, right? The pivot action, which is running on bearings, is nice and smooth. I'm sure that that'll just get smoother and smoother over time. You can only flip it, but man, it works really well. Access to the lock bar is very plentiful. That is nicely carved out. There's plenty of room to get there. No double clutch, no hint of it, especially if you get past the flipper tab. If you catch the flipper tab exactly, even there, no double clutch, then the blade's still going to come down. This is not sharp, but it is a little bit pokey over time. It might bother you, especially if you do more of a push button. If you light switch it, though, you're not going to have much of an issue there. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Up against the Para 3, it's really not all that thick. In fact, it's actually thinner than the Para 3. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. This guy's a little longer than the Para 3, a little shorter than the PM2, nowhere near as tall as either, even including the flipper tab, which is kind of knocked down a bit because of its position in this area right here. Yeah, it really shouldn't be that bothersome in the pocket. Materials, what do we have for materials? We have beautifully milled and contoured titanium. Look at this. That is nice. I really like seeing continuous patterns. Oh yeah, and there's an inlay of carbon fiber, which actually has been laid in there really well. Purposefully lipped above the titanium. Looks really nice. Would have been nice if we had a little bit over here, but that's okay. It really does look cool on this side. And the way that they did it, right, the actual inlay work itself is very, very good, and the quality of the carbon fiber is also very good. Not really seeing any voids or anything. And what I thought was milling lines, actually, I think just turns out to be maybe finger oils that have been drug along. Yeah, have just been drug along the carbon fiber. But the carbon fiber itself looks really, really good. So there you go. What's the blade? The blade is M390, which is absolutely extremely premium. But we see it on everything. But you know what? I think the geometry for it is good in this case. So I don't have too much to complain about there. Let's weigh it. Do we have any milling on the inside? We sure do. There we go. Titanium has been milled out for weight reduction. Overall weight coming in at, I'm going to say 4.5. Hey, actually got close, 4.44 ounces. So not perfect ratios, but if you don't subscribe to that way of thinking, it's a 4.44 ounce object, which is not a heavy object. We all carry cell phones that are big and stupid, big stupid rectangles we carry in our pockets that weigh substantially more, right? You can look up the pictures of cats eating spaghetti or whatever we do with our phones in 2023. Watch knife reviews, right? I just realized that's a good use of your phone. All right. You know what? Don't come down on your phone for being a big, stupid, heavy rectangle, all right? It's allowing you to watch me. Anyways, let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness of this guy. I don't think it's a super thick blade. I'm going to guess that's 120 thousandths. Oh, man, 2 for 2 today, 120 thousandths there. Not a thick blade. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. We have a T8 pivot and for some reason T6 body screws, but you know what? That's okay. There's just 2 per side and then a couple for the lock bar insert, which you're never going to have to take out. And there's probably some hidden screws. Yeah, there's a couple of hidden screws underneath there for the pocket clip, if you can see in there. Minimal, and it's a sandwich construction frame lock, so it'll be super duper easy to take apart. As long as you have the right tools for the job and a place to put the hardware, you should be good to go. Okay, we did all. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this knife. Really classic overall look. We have a drop point blade. We have a simple handle profile, not one that locks you into any one specific position. That's nice. These edges are a bit abrupt. I'm not going to call them sharp. They're just abrupt, which is a fancy way of saying if you squeeze really hard, you're definitely going to be able to feel them. Fortunately, they gave us a milled clip that's been slightly contoured on top, or radiused, right? And knocked down at these edges here. So the clip itself is not a hot spot. Really, the only time you're going to be bothered is if you are squeezing this knife really hard and barehanded. But again, let me say, these edges are not sharp. They're just not like perfectly rounded off, right? Outside of that, pretty darn comfortable knife. This is really a right-handed only knife. I mean, we have, a right-handed frame lock and a right-handed pocket clip with no mounting position for lefties. So sorry, lefties. I know you guys are used to it at this point. Yeah, it really is comfortable and it's really easy to flip. Like I said, the handle looks great. The overall profile, it's a nice, handsome, sort of minimal, look, but it's not so minimal. A lot of companies got carried away with that like minimalist look. Like every single knife looked exactly the same for a long time. And they were like, to complete the minimalist look, we've done absolutely nothing to the titanium. Yes, of course, everybody loves just flat, plain titanium with just an abyss, an absolute void of any character whatsoever, because you are a minimalist. Yeah, I'm really glad that that's not what's happening here. We have a little bit of character, not so busy that it looks like Decepticon, freaking Megatron's forearm or anything like that, but there's enough here, right? I don't know why they keep choosing blue and yellow. AM8 and Miguron, I think this is fine to have like blue and yellow and other colors and stuff, but like pick and choose when it's appropriate for the rest of it, right? I really think if you'd have just left the pivot like silver, right? Or like just like a brushed satin, it would have been fine. And then maybe with the pivot color, make it black or something to make it contrast. It's just a really weird pop of color here. And it's not like this was on purpose. I mean, I keep seeing the same pivot and pivot color on every single knife. This is fine. It's not offensive. It's just weird. And it looks like you made about 10,000 blue pivots and 10,000 yellow pivot collars. And you're like, well, they're going to go on everything. So do something different, but it's okay, right? It's fine. The blade, simple drop point blade, it'll work. We've got a flat that's carried out to about 85% the length of the blade, a good amount of material out to the tip, right? Flat ground down to a reasonably thin final apex here. And the actual cutting bevel is nice and even all the way out to the tip. So there's no part of this knife that looks bad. In fact, it's a really nice looking blade. They really didn't cheap out on anything here. They did a good job. We've got the horizontal lines here, the horizontal sort of satin finish on the flat, and then we have the vertical machine ground lines there on the bevel down to the cutting apex. Just looks really good. This blade is going to make short work of pretty much any normal task, right? Whether you're cutting wood, cardboard, rope, rubber, whatever. Paper, maybe you're shaving grapes, I don't know, whatever it is you're doing. Maybe you're not cutting anything, maybe you're just cutting air, right? Whatever you're doing, it will cut it. I think the M390 is, well, I'm not saying whatever, like don't try to cut paper clips, that's dumb, right? Cut things that are not as hard as the blade, but that should go without saying, right? I think the M390 composition is well accentuated by the geometry of this knife. Obviously, if you get too thick, it kind of defeats the purpose, right? And if you get too thin, it also defeats the purpose. That's pretty much the same with any composition. But this is a good 120 thousandths with a, sort of medium-high flat grind, like kind of a fairly prominent swedge. I think this is fine. That'll work really well. There's a little bit of a spot that suggests that you can choke up, but there's not much, right? When you do this, when you have a flipper tab, and you're going to do this here, I don't know why companies are like, you know what? Let's put enough space for a hobbit finger in there. That'll work. More. Not everybody's fingers are as thick as mine, but there are plenty of people who have fingers as thick as mine or thicker, right? This is made for a child's finger, right? Either bring this back and make it a sharpening tool so there's nobody even trying to put their finger in there, or make it bigger, right? This is just asking for a cut right here past your first knuckle. So I don't like that. The only way that works is if the flipper tab wasn't here and they had made this a front flipper, or they had put thumb studs on it, right? Because then there's nothing here and you can make use of this whole area, but that doesn't work. So a little bit of a weird choice for the tiny finger choil there, but that's a mistake that a lot of companies make. And they just, whenever they're confronted about, they're like, you just put your finger there anyway. And I'm like, well, what kind of answer is that? Like, what do you mean just put my finger there anyway? There's not enough room, right? You goofies. Listen, make it bigger or don't do it. It just drives me crazy. All right. Anyways, this knife is actually really good. And I'm getting to the best part here. Just 2 screws on each side, simple construction, nice little gear pattern backspacer, looks good. It's kind of like dark, sort of gunmetal-y. It almost looks bronze, but it's not. It's just a really dark gray, right? Pocket, there's no lanyard hole, no lanyard hole, sorry, lanyardy people. The much more important element, in my opinion, the only other important element when we're talking about those two things, the pocket clip is not really a deep carry clip. It's approaching a shallow carry, but not quite. There's not a lot sticking up out of your pocket, right? The clip is good. Popsicle stick, but it's good. There's a nice ramp here, right? You are going to be sliding over some texturing, but it's not aggressive texturing. It's actually pretty minimal in and out of the pocket. It's not really going to do much to your pants. There is a lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop, so that's nice. We have a stop pin located in its traditional spot. Deep shouldering. No blade play up, down, left, or right. Doesn't surprise me. No lock stick, no double clutch, no pivot lash. Very consistent action, and I'd call that a medium strength clicky detent, but it works. I ran into the table there, right? Not something that's going to come. I'm actually going to try and whip it out. Yeah, I'm really trying. I know it doesn't look like it, but I can't. So yeah, it's fine. Best part about this knife can be easily found for $175 to $179 consistently. Wow. Milled, contoured, titanium, carbon fiber inlay, milled clip, milled backspacer, M390, and excellent execution. Couple of quirky things here or there, but my God, that's amazing in 2023, even being made in China. This is a ridiculously good deal, and no surprise coming from AM8, one of the heavy competitors when it comes to value, right? If you're one of those people who just blindly says, M390 titanium, and you don't think about anything else, well, this is great. You'll love this, right? Without even having to consider that they actually did a good job executing those materials, right? Which is absolutely, in my opinion, just as, if not more important. This is really good. I like this knife. This is going to go on my most recommended knives playlist. Easy. Very, very good stuff from AM8. Like I said, it'll be linked down below so you guys can check it out. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.